Hello again and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about coloring grayscale images. I'm also going to be showing you some of the grayscale images that come through in the Coloring Heaven books, just to help you understand how to color in a grayscale image, what they are. I'm also going to be coloring a page out of Coloring Heaven Cutesy Christmas Special, and I'm going to be working on this page. It is July, and I thought I'll try do a Christmas in July page. Whether or not I get it done in July or in December, that remains a mystery. But I thought it would be a fun project. So this page is done by Mariola Budek. She has an Etsy store where you can download and buy her beautiful artwork, and she mainly works in what is known as a grayscale. Now, a grayscale drawing or picture is quite shaded. It has blacks and whites. So if you look here, you've got this darker side here showing you that this part needs to be quite dark, and here is a bit of a medium gray, whereas this side here is almost white. So a grayscale image shows you the variations of a picture and gives you an idea of where to put your shadows, where to put your highlights, and it can help take a lot of the guesswork and the thought of where does the light go, where's my source of light, where do I put highlights, and all of that sort of stuff, which in the beginning can seem a bit confusing and challenging. Sometimes it's also you want the mental break. If I go into here, this is a different page in the exact same book by Ruth Sanderson. This is not a grayscale image. You just have two-dimensional drawings and a beautiful picture. And it's up to you to work out where you want to put your shadows and your lights. It's got a little bit of shadow here in the clouds with these dots, but these fish and the candy canes are predominantly up to you to decide. If we look at this one by Jen Katz, there is no hint of shadows, where to put your shadows and how to color it. It's totally up to you. So you can see the difference between a grayscale. If I go into the steampunk special, there's quite a few beautiful illustrations here. This is a small grayscale here, not a grayscale. If we go further towards the back, this is starting to give you a grayscale image, and there's some beautiful pictures in here. Some more detailed than others, some grayscale, some not. This is a touch of grayscale. If we go into this special here, you have much more of a grayscale image. This is by Maud Lemoine, and here you can see dark into light, and even on the petals you've got more of an idea of where to put your darks and lights, and even some of the details on the flowers, on the mane of the horse. This is the page I've just started this one. What I need to do is get a reference photo to help me just know where to put highlights on the chest and the breasts and the shoulder. But you can see here, this part of the bow needs to have a shadow in and over here, whereas on the top it must contrast and be lighter. This, not so much in the flowers, although there is a bit of a hint. Definitely grayscale here in her hair, touches of it on her face. Again here you can see it's got a bit more grayscale. So I wouldn't say that these are completely grayscale images, but they definitely do have it. If you look here, even on the frangipanies, you've got grayscale into light. It definitely does help. So I'm going to show you how I color these images in. We're going to do this guy. So cute. And what I'm also going to do is show you kind of how I plan my pages. And I have this book here by Ruby Charm Colors, her big book of color charts. And in here I've swatched all the pencils that I have. So I've got the marker Raffines, which I don't really use much. I find them quite hard. And I wish I had Holbein's. Castle Arts, they were my first set I bought last year. And I've swatched them all out so I can see at a glance what the colors do on white paper, and I can plan my picture accordingly and know that those are the colors I'm going to get. Sometimes what happens is the color on the pencil and the color that is on paper can be different. So I just personally think it's good practice to swatch your colors, and that way you can refer to them frequently when you're planning your picture. I have some of the Artesas. My son has the set of the Black Widow Cobra, and I'm just trying to find, I've got Prismas, so I'm using Prismas to color in this beautiful picture. There we go. So there's the Prismacolors. And what I do is I will look at my picture, and because it's Christmas, I want to use reds, a bit of green, and I'm going to do some gray. I'm going to make him gray and the bell silver. So I come over to my swatch and I will look at the reds, where the deep reds are, and I will pull out my pencils and I write it down on a piece of paper, kind of like this. So these are the colors that I'm going to use for the mitten, my two options for the bow, gold or silver, and my option for the mouse, and the fur balls on the mitten and on the mouse's hat. Here is the colors for the snowflake and the top of the mitten, apparently. And then I keep this with my page while I'm coloring it. So when I'm finished coloring, I'll just put it in, close the book, and then when I come back to it, I've got all my stuff planned out. I know where I'm going, and there's less thought. So these are the colors for the mitten that I've picked out. One more pencil. And obviously you can use a black and a white, which I will use as we go along. The black I will use as an outliner, just to tidy up the picture once I'm done. I also have the To-Go pencil sharpener, and each number here helps me with my points when I'm sharpening them. So if I want a super sharp point, I can go up to 5. If I want the point to be sharp but not too much of the lead coming off the pencil, I'll just leave it at 1. And I've found for the Prismas this works really, really well. I'm very happy with this pencil. It sharpens smoothly. I don't have to put much effort in it, which means I'm not breaking the lead of my pencil. I also use this blush makeup brush just to dust off any bits of wax that come off the picture as I'm coloring. So you might see me using this. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to talk to you while I'm doing this. The same colors for the mitten we'll use on the hat as well. So I might actually just start you off on the hat. Okay, so here, this is very, very light. So, and here, there's a bit of a light mark here. and along here. So I'm going to actually start with one of my darkest colors, probably the black raspberry, so PC 1095, and I'm going to come into these dark areas here and just lightly bring that down over here on this side. Along this edge, because I don't want it to be a black edge, I want it to be a red edge. In here. And also while I'm doing this, I'm going to be showing you how I layer the colors up. And it will make it, because you might be looking at this and going, but that is not red, and that is not what a red Christmas hat looks like. What are you doing? And the reason I'm doing this first is because I want this dark, almost brown, to as a base layer, so that it gives my picture a lot of depth. If I was to take just this color, which is a carmine red, PC 926, if I bring it here next to it, it's also not the right color. It's more of an orangey red, and even if I was to press dark, I'm not going to necessarily get that beautiful deep red. So here you can see if the two colors next to each other, neither of them are actually that lovely Christmassy red. And that's why I'm going to layer the colors and build them up, because that way I'm going to be creating a richer red than what I've got in these pencils. So here I'm just coming down on the highlights. So wherever there's like light colors, light white bits, I'm just bringing in my highlights, because I want these areas to be much lighter than the others. Okay, along here, and here. Some people prefer to color in little circles, others do up and down. I find I do a mix of both. So I'm back with the black raspberry. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the crimson red, which is PC 924, and I'm going to go over this. So this would be my second layer of color. And I'm just going to bring it out into the lighter area. And I'm going in largish circular motions, almost more oval. And I'm going to bring it here and into this section. over this area here. Definitely over here. And I'm applying a light to medium pressure. I don't want to press hard, especially with Prismacolors, because they will snap the lead. So I'm holding the pencil far back just to help with the with my pressure. Dots it in. Here. Okay. And that is what I would say base layer would look like. But now we need to build it up because that's not at all finished. So we're going to come in with the Tuscan Red, which is PC937. And I'm going to go into all those dark areas again. And this is going to be my third layer because I've used that crimson red to go into these dark areas, and now I'm deepening that dark shadow area again. I do highly recommend finding YouTube videos to show you how to color things if you're not certain how to do it. That's what I do a lot of the time. If I'm not sure how to color feathers or scales or mermaids, I'll try and find a picture or a video just to get my head around the coloring, and I find it quite helpful. So there were some black lines around here, so we just want to try keep that. Okay, and then we're going to go back in with 924 crimson red, and so this is our fourth layer. And what you want to try do is, if you start one way the next pencil color go a different way. And so you're cross hatching, and that will help layer your colors evenly and build them up quite evenly. If you can, I mean, sometimes like this line, I can't really go that way. I need to just continue it, and that's okay too. But for these bigger areas, you want to try and keep them kind of different directions if you can. Going circular, so you may be wondering, why do we have to go one way then the other way and cross hatch? So to show you here, one way and then you go the other way, and then again you build up the color. And it gives it more depth. So that's one way. The other way is small circles. I think they call it scumbling. And by doing this, you can go over the same patch and you'll also get that deeper color. So that's your two options. Not for everything, but in this sort of context. Cross hatching, so this is hatching, this is cross hatching. And it creates texture. Then what you also get is, I'm going to use different color, feathering. And this is what you would use for fur or for hair. And then you get stippling, which is just creating lots of dots. And you can use this on a hat. I've seen people use it on hats. And you just build up, but you need to keep a very sharp point for that. Yeah. And then block coloring is when you have one pencil pressed hard and you create one shade. Sometimes you need to use that, but generally we would use a mixture of that or this in most of our bulk coloring. It all depends what you're coloring. So back to Crimson Red 924. And you can also rotate your pencil. This helps keep the point of your pencil, which also helps prevent you from sharpening it too much and going through your pencil quickly. Alright, so I'm just going to very lightly use the Crimson Red over the lighter areas. My reason for doing this, I want to give it a little bit more of a red than an orange red. Okay, then if I bring up the Carmine Red, which is a 926, I'll go over the entire portion of the hat with this. And I'll use small circles because I want to get the color in there as much as I possibly can. So this is where we would say I'm blending the layers together now. You can do a light blend, you can do a hard blend. So if you're wondering why must we use light pressure versus medium pressure or hard pressure, and the reason, and I might have mentioned this in other videos, the harder you press, the more you're pushing the pigment of the color into the tooth of the paper. So if you look, I'll bring it up closer for you. So if you look up here, you can see this like grainy texture. That's because of the tooth of the paper, and that tooth holds the color from your pencil and puts it onto the paper. But if you press really hard, you damage this tooth, and that means that it's difficult to layer more of the pencils on. So it limits your depth and your 3D the 3D look of your picture. So we want to try and keep that tooth for as long as possible, because that helps us with our layering, and the layering is what gives us the right color and the right depth. Some people they color quickly, other people color slowly. I am one of those who color slowly. I like to layer and build up my picture as much as I possibly can. It also depends what medium you use. So if you're going to be using markers or watercolor paints, the markers and the watercolor do speed up the process, because you get that immediate color down, and then you just have to deepen it with your colored pencils. If you choose to do that route, or you could just color it with markers and watercolor. And watercolor, you do need, I think, a bit more layers than a marker. I'm not 100% sure. I don't really use markers much. I'm a bit old-fashioned. I like pencil and paper. Some people also color with apps. I've seen some beautiful work with the color apps. It's not really my style, just because I do love book and paper and pencil, or paper and pen. If you use gel pens as well, you know, depending on what you use, you'll either go faster or slower. Depends on your style, what you prefer, the way you like to color. I find the slower I am, because of the layering, in some ways, the more satisfied I am with the picture. Okay, I'm going to get out my whites. The key with the white is to make sure it's clean. So if I bring this up here, you can see the tip has got some bits of green on it. And if I take that into red, I can have a beautiful red hat streaked with green stuff, which would spoil. So you clean off your white pencil just by scribbling it and rotating the pencil on clean paper. And until it's clean. Okay. So I'm going to use the white, and I'm going to blend and lighten these light areas here. You can do the same process with a lighter color. So maybe you select a whole lot of pencils. You color your picture. You don't want the milky effect of the white pencil. So in that case, you could just use your lightest color, and that will prevent it from getting a milky look to it. So some people do like to use a blending pencil. I personally prefer just using the actual pencils to a blending pencil. So I'm going to come back in with the crimson red, which is the 924. Just lightly here. I think this is already our 6th or 7th layer. I stopped counting. Just want that red to come through. Just very lightly dusting over these white areas. So the key to get your highlights to kind of stand out is to make sure that your darker areas are quite dark. Okay, I'm going to take my Tuscan red now and darken my darks. I want to just keep that texture in. And PC 1095 Blackberry. Not blackberry, sorry, black raspberry. So we are going caravanning this weekend, and it looks like it's going to be a lovely sunny weekend, which is great because it's been a few weeks of rain. And as much as I appreciate rain and that the farmers need rain because it grows their crops, I'm a sun girl. I love the sun. My kids joke with me and call me a reptile because If the sun's out, mom's hanging out in the sun, soaking up the rays. I always said if I was to be an animal in another life, I would probably be a cat in one of those like luxurious cats with long hair, like a Maine Coon or a Persian cat, because I'd want to be taken care of and I'd want to have my independence. But most importantly, I would find the sun, I would sleep in the sun. And so it's just, I've always had that. But my kids like reptiles, especially my middle son. So as far as he's concerned, mom's not a cat, mom's a reptile soaking up the sun. So we're hoping to do some fishing. It's actually quite a fun family hobby, fishing. We just do some basic carp fishing, really, nothing fancy. And we're all learning how to cast, except my 7-year-old, almost 7-year-old. It's actually 6. All right, there we go. So now back to 926 Carmine Red, and we're going to build this up. And that's what I do. I just go over it. I layer and layer and layer until I get that look that tells me I got it. And I will layer until there's no tooth left of the paper, because I don't like the tooth of the paper shining through. It bothers me. And I do want to encourage you to just keep pushing the paper. If you think, oh, is it enough? It's probably not enough, and just keep at it. Just keep layering. I really don't believe there is such a thing as too dark. You can create an imbalance of your darks and your lights, but I don't believe you can oversaturate your page. Okay, obviously if your paper is not taking any more pigment because the tooth of the paper is finished, then that's a different story. But what I'm meaning is, as long as there's tooth on the paper, I don't believe that you can color in too dark. However, I do appreciate that if you're new to adult coloring and the concept of layering is mind-boggling, I do appreciate and understand that putting on so much color, it could feel unnatural, and that's okay too. I just really want to encourage you to persevere and keep going at it. Because what you're doing every time you layer and you push the color and deepen it, you're actually creating what's called a good tonal value. And it also helps you to blend out your darks into your midtones, into your lights. So here, this is a dark tone, but this section here would be a midtone and this would be a light tone. So you want, generally you'll blend those so that they're kind of blending and fading into each other, unless it's a very direct shadow. So if you go and look on leaves in a tree, and you might see a really dark shadow and it's got this hard line, and then you've got a light side of the leaf, that wouldn't blend out, because if you're creating realism, you would want that dark shadow line. On this hat here, we've got this dark shadow line here, but we can still blend this in a bit. But the rest over here, so this section, dark, mid-tone into light, we want to have a gradual, I suppose, color blend. I do want to kind of put a disclaimer that I'm not a professional artist at all. I'm just sharing what I do and my understanding, which, to be honest, is very small. I have so much still to learn. But I just enjoy coloring, and I like sharing what I've learned. So let me know if it's helpful. I've done a few videos where some where I talk, others where I just put music on. So if you prefer one or the other, let me know. That way I can give you the videos you enjoy watching. Alright, so now I'm going to go back in with 924 Crimson Red. So I go from the dark out a bit back in, and that's how I blend this out. Over, out a bit. Oh dear, I think one of my kids is upset. I might have to come back to this. So if I bring this up again, just to show you how the tooth of the paper has changed, you can see it's becoming more saturated. Here is here there's far less tooth compared to in here, and that's just because of the way I've layered it and the pressure I've put in. I'm going to go back in with the Tuscan Red and the Black Raspberry. I'll do the Tuscan Red first. And I want to just keep my shadow areas dark. If you hold the pencil closer to the tip, you will naturally press a bit harder. So you do have to, you can hold it lightly, but you'll get more pressure through. If you hold it further back, you have much less pressure on your pencil. And then the Black Raspberry, which I'm just going to sharpen. And I'm just going into the deeper area of the shadows to create that depth. And also I want to encourage you to get a feel for the direction each element that you're coloring is going. So over here it's curving that way. So if I want to define like an edge or a shadow, you know, I can take my pencil and I can follow that direction. So just also feel it. Okay. I'm going to use the 926 Carmine Red. And I'm just going to go over the whole thing with the Carmine Red. So we're almost done with this part of the hat. Okay, I'm going to go back in with the Crimson Red. So I just want to deepen this area here. And now I'm also using a medium pressure because I'm happy with the tonal value here and the amount of layers I've got. So now I want to just blend it into the tooth of the paper. Okay, I'm going to use my, just clean my white pencil. I just want to lighten here up because this is where my highlight is. Here. I love watching artists teach coloring. They have so many tricks. I've seen some people use blues and purples for deepening their shadows. I've seen people use yellows and greens to create depth to their light areas, and it's just absolutely phenomenal to watch. Okay, so I'm using the carmine red, and I'm going to go over all of this with the carmine red, and now I want to push this into the tooth of the paper because I'm quite happy with it. And I'm also going over the white because I don't want that milky white. I just wanted to use it to lighten up some of these areas. So we're almost done now. This hat is looking beautiful. It's got great tone. By going over the whitened areas with my lightest red, I'm putting back in that red without having it too dark, so I'm not losing my highlight. And I'm just going back and forth over it because I want to get rid of the obvious tooth of the paper. I'm happy with how I've built up these colors, so I just want this to be a nice blend. Sometimes you don't get all the tooth out. I try get most of it out, but that's just personal preference. I think some people don't really mind, and if you can use a colorless blender as well if you really want to. I've just found before, if I use a colorless blender, it kind of does some weird stuff to the pigments, and it some of them have left gray streaks in my picture, so I don't really like that. Okay, I'm just going to go in with the black raspberry PC 1095 and just deepen up in the very dark areas, just to keep those dark so they haven't been lost, and it just also gives the picture some definition. And there you have it. That's part of his hat already done. So now that we've done the red part of the hat, I'm going to go and do this area here, the pom-pom, and then I wanted to make this side of his hat a white. Now, because of the way shadows and light affect white, when we color white, it's never going to be a straight white pencil and therefore I have white. No, whether you paint or color white, you will use different colors in it. Because I'm going to be using grays and silver for the bell, grays for the mouse, and bits of brown, I decided that I'm going to use a grayish brown for the shadow areas here on the hat and in the pom-pom. So to do that, I'm going to use just 3 colors. I've got the white pencil, PC938, a French gray, 30%, PC107, 0, and then a PC1074, which is a 70% French gray. And I'm going to use these to color in the pom-pom. Again, because it's grayscale, there's a lot of guidance for us. So I'm going to start off with PC1074, which is a 70% French gray. This is going to be my darkest color. And I'm just going to, using a bit of a feather stroke, just bring all of this lightly in. Rotating my pencil quite a bit just to keep that sharp point. Remember, this section of the hat can also be quite fluffy. So doing a feathering stroke can help us achieve a bit of fluffiness as well. So I'm not using a very hard pressure. I'm just, where it's darker, I'm going over it multiple times, and I'm using a light feathering stroke. And the reason we don't want to use black is because the shadow is soft. You know, I might do a green background, maybe a textured background, so it looks like he's hanging on a Christmas tree. And in that case, you would have, we would want to create a bit of warmth to it. So we're not going to have very strong shadows. We're going to go for a warm, gentle kind of color. And here just very lightly. And this section, because of it needing to be more white, so over here I'm going quite light. We're not going to really take too long on it, because we don't want to overdo it. We want to give the illusion that it's white. Some people will start with their lightest first and then go darker. I like to do my darks first because I like to make sure I've got my obvious shadows in, and that way I don't lose them. I just find it works for me. I might change that as I get more experience and learn new things. But for now, that's how I like to color. Okay, and up here in the pom-pom, this is very fluffy, so again, using a feathered stroke. I'm going to treat it more like fur or hair. And that's why I'm also rotating my pencil quite a bit. So I want to keep my tip sharp. It will help create that hair-like or fluff texture. Okay, now I'm going to come in with my PC 1070, which is the 30% French gray. I've cut a sharp tip, and I'm just going to go where my darks is, and I'm going to use the same technique and just pulling the fur down and up. I've just got some of the red in my hat, so I want to just try and erase some of that. I'm just coming in with an eraser, and I just want to try clean up here where it's got a bit of red. And if we can't clean it up too much and we need to, we'll use a white Uniball Signo pen just to recreate that that white tip. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on the side of the hat. And so over here. Okay, I'm going back in with my PC 1074 because I just want to keep some of these lines going. Now I'm going to sharpen it because I want a fine tip. I don't want to lose the texture. Okay, now I'm coming in with PC 938 and I'm just going to blend this out. See, now what's happening here is I'm picking up the red with the white pencil and it's just bringing that red in, which is a pity. So we'll use a white Uniball Signo pen to just try and tidy that up a bit. If you look there, oh, sorry, get you in focus. You see on the tip, there's some red there, so I'm going to just clean it off on a piece of paper. And that should help not spread red into our hat. So what I should have also done was checked my white pencil. Oh, see, there we go. Did it again, picked it up. Okay. So let's tidy this up a bit here. I'm going to use that feathering stroke. And if we need to do a few layers just to get rid of this red, and we'll let it dry and come back in a few minutes. Okay, PC 1074. And we're just going to tidy up this section here. And then PC 1070, I'm just going to sharpen it. And the nice thing with the Uniball Signo pen is if you've put too much paint down with the pen, you just go over it with your pencil and you can scratch any excess away, and that just helps blend it and smoothen it. Okay, so I'm going to use the Signo pen again, and I just want to try and clean this up. back in with PC 1070. And the PC 938 white, and we'll just scratch off try and blend this a bit. Okay. I think I'm going to leave it there. Maybe just smoothen this side out. Okay, so let's go back to the pom-pom using the PC 938, which is the white. And PC 1074, which is the 70% French grey. PC 1070, 30% French grey. And then we'll go over it with the Uniball white Signo pen to just give this more texture and get rid of those red spots. Okay, And now I'm going to just sharpen my white and just blend this all out. So it's not a strong gray, and it's also not overly painted. PC 1074. Just to add some definition on these. Right, there we go. We're going to do these pom-poms in the exact same way as the top pom-pom. So I'm going to just check. Okay, there we go. So we're going to do these pom-poms. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Here is my finished work for this video. Please subscribe to see future parts and other videos and tutorials. Bye for now.